began this morning as the U.S. President George W. Bush addressed the UN General Assembly for his final time. This is the last time, the 8th time, the U.S. leader is addressing the world body. He spoke about the need to continue combating terrorism and spreading democracy, and he wasted no time scolding Russia for invading Georgia last month. The U.S. leader says Georgia is a young democratic nation that needs to have its sovereignty protected. President Bush said he's calling on all members of the United Nations to rally behind Tbilisi to make sure Georgia's territorial integrity is protected. President Bush said Russia violated that territorial integrity last month and broke international law.
We must stand united in our support of the people of Georgia. The United Nations Charter sets forth the equal rights of nations large and small. Russia's invasion of Georgia was a violation of those words.
Following the address by U.S. President George W. Bush, French President Nicolas Sarkozy addressed the world body. His tone was softer. He spoke about uniting with Russia. While he did say that Georgia's sovereignty does need to be protected, he suggested that Europe needs to foster and cement more of a strategic cooperation and relationship with Russia, for he says that Europe will only benefit by having good relations with Moscow.
Europe doesn't want a new Cold War. Europe wants peace, and because it wants peace, that's why Europe is telling Russia it wants links of solidarity with Russia, that it wants to build a shared future, that it wants to be a partner with Russia. Why then not build a continent-wide economic space which would unite Russia and Europe?
Iranian President Ahmadinejad. The Iranian leader addressed the world body this afternoon. He blatantly called the United States a bully and says the U.S. leader has led a foreign policy that has divided the international body rather than united it. And he even used the recent situation in Georgia, South Ossetia, and the spread of NATO to describe how the U.S. is only making problems worse.
The lives, properties, and rights of the people of Georgia and Ossetia and Abkhazia are victims of the tendencies and provocations of NATO and certain Western powers, and the underhanded actions of the Zionists.
The United States and many Western countries are now pushing for a 4th round of sanctions against Iran, saying that its enrichment program is still a danger to the world. Iran has maintained that its enrichment program is only used for peaceful purposes. The U.S. and Western countries believe that it is used to possibly create nuclear weapons. President Ahmadinejad said every country around the world has a right to enrich uranium, and he should not have to stop that right just because the U.S. says so.
Despite the inalienable right of all nations, including the Iranian nation, in producing nuclear fuel for peaceful purposes, and despite such facts as the transparency of all Iranian activities and our country's full cooperation with the inspectors of the IAEA and the agency's repeated confirmation of the fact that Iran's activities are peaceful, a few bullying powers have sought to put hurdles in the way of the peaceful nuclear activities of the Iranian nation by exerting political and economic pressures against Iran.
Now, throughout the day, there's been several protests taking place across the street from the United Nations. Among them, many rallied against the presence of Iranian President Ahmadinejad, his actions, his position, and the topic will, of course, be something that will continue to be discussed as the UN General Assembly debate continues for the rest of the week.